Hi everyone, welcome to our new show, The Volunteer Corner. On The Volunteer Corner, we're going to be delving into all things volunteer. On our first Volunteer Corner, we're going to be talking with Allie Spear, and she's going to be a new death doula volunteer with Interim Hospice. Hi Allie, how are you?
I'm good, Liz. How are you?
I'm good. So Interim Hospice, the volunteer program, we're going to be launching the death doula program. She's going to start with us as a patient companion and a vigil volunteer. So Allie, tell me a little bit what brought you to this.
Yeah, so in my career and in my life, I've always had a sense of purpose to be of service to other people. And I've found ways to bake that into my experience working at agencies and corporations in brand strategy and digital strategy. But, at the same time, I've always kind of had like that calling getting stronger and stronger over the years. And
we talked a lot about that first time we met.
Yeah. And so I've kind of been ignoring it a little the past couple of years and focusing on my professional career in marketing. But I'd say that, after I finished my MBA in 2019 rolled around and that calling started to get a lot stronger to the point where I really felt that I needed to make space to figure out how that sense of purpose wanted to play a role in my life in a more meaningful and spiritual way.
Right.
And so I did just that. I left my role in marketing, working for corporate, and have been kind of pulling at this thread of curiosity the past year. And, there were personal life experiences that kept popping up for me that really led me to interim healthcare and the interest in hospice, and then really pinpointing that role of being a death doula.
I think it's wonderful. Rachel and I had been investigating this role for a while, really wanting to bring this to the forefront of our volunteer opportunities. And there you were. What do you picture as a death doula? What does that role look like for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really attractive about the role is that each death doula is going to bring their unique authenticity to the role. For me, as a death doula, I love the idea that these are people who are providing emotional, spiritual, and physical support to patients and their loved ones.
Right. Within a hospice program, our staff can be really limited with the amount or length of time they can spend with a patient in one day or, that kind of thing. But as a death doula, you really you're not confined by anything except, your work or things outside of being a death doula. So, spending, 4 hours with a patient and the family, that wouldn't be something that would be uncommon. That would be very common. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. The only constraint that I'm really aware of is that, death doulas aren't providing the medical care. So we really are part of kind of this care unit in partnering with hospice providers to really fill that gap.
Right.
And I think we can both recognize that people who come into this role working in hospice have kind of that same calling and a really big heart. And so personally, I really recognize that these caregivers, like you said, do have the constraints because they are, regulated roles, and this death doula role is unregulated. So my hope really is to fill that gap and not only provide support to the individual and their families, but also give a sense of calm to the rest of this care unit here who really do have a bond with the people that they're visiting. It's really as part of my work, joining you guys as a patient companion and doing vigil or life remembrances, I'm in sponge mode. I am here to figure out how you guys operate and really get a clear sense of what that gap is, because I have, my own perceptions of
Right.
what that is.
Yeah.
And that might not align with what's actually happening here.
And I think too, when you go through that doula training, you'll be able to kind of find your niche. What area of that death doula do you want to emphasize? To present forward? Because a death doula does so much.
It's kind of overwhelming when you look at
It is.
the amount of services that you can kind of curate as a death doula.
Right.
Like we talked about, there's the preparation standpoint. Like doulas can get into the logistical side of things, helping people navigate all the paperwork,
plan funerals. I mean, there's just
advocacy side of it, making sure people are aware of their options.
Yeah.
And then, leading up to their end of life journey, just being there to be a sounding board.
And to represent support. What that patient is looking for. I think that's really at the core of anybody who volunteers or works with a hospice organization, is you want to be there for that patient and their family for whatever support they need. And I think, just you and I meeting and talking, so we both have joined the Death Collaborative, the Minnesota Death Collaborative.
Yeah.
Once we get through that death doula training, I think we can really speak to what you'll be doing more. But I just really wanted to introduce you to our team and just let people know that death doula role is something that we're really looking forward to creating and welcoming you. And
I think part of transitioning to doing doula work for me came with a little bit of sadness initially to leave behind all the work that I've done in marketing.
Right.
But as I've kind of gone along this journey, I've realized that experience is actually perfectly aligned to this role. Death doulas aren't as mainstream as birth doulas.
Right.
Hospice has a steady foundation and reputation. Death doulas are really kind of piggybacking off of the work that, both of those roles have already played.
Right.
And there's a huge opportunity in terms of marketing to get more exposure out there for what this death doula role is and how do we promote it not only within organizations but to families.
Right, exactly.
And so I really hope to kind of take that experience and kind of what I consider my innate gifts and really channel that into helping provide more visibility into this role and providing, presence and preparation to families and individuals. Get clarity on what's coming, what are the signs, and, prepare for kind of that postpartum part of their life.
Right.
And so, like you said, this role is exciting. We live in a society that's not so comfortable with grief and dying, but it is a life transition, and we can give love to our close people, and part of that is accepting and helping people emotionally prepare and feel ready to go on that next part of their journey.
She'll be in the role of the death doula from now and through then. We'll be out in the community as patient companion and as a vigil volunteer. And so we're just really looking forward to having you be a part of our team. What kind of things are you looking to do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I actually discovered Interim Healthcare and was interested in the vigil role based on a previous experience I had, which was pretty profound. So I was back home here in the Twin Cities on winter break from where I went to college in Chicago, and my aunt was actually getting hospice care just an hour north of the city in Lindstrom, Minnesota. And I was just getting ready one day, putting on my makeup, and all of a sudden I just had this overwhelming feeling to drop everything and go.
Yeah.
And I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I just stopped and I started driving up there, and within 15 minutes of being there, she passed.
Right.
And I felt really grateful to be there with her and to hold space for her and my uncle and my cousins who I'm close to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with that, that's kind of, you know, a memory that's really been persistently showing up again the past year and kind of led me to Interim. And this idea of being a death doula.
How you talk about holding space and being, because you have such a lovely presence, and being able to, and you know, you and I have talked about this, being in that space doesn't necessarily mean that you have to talk or, so talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've actually been starting to like network with other death doulas in the Twin Cities, and I loved what one of them said to me last week. Like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so I think that's really key in this like support role.
Right.
You know, even as a hospice volunteer, you know, it's really our job to read the room and be a sounding board, not push our agenda, but really be there to listen and to help guide when appropriate. And every family and every individual is so unique. So I really see my role as like stepping into the flow of someone else's experience, and providing like presence, you know. Maybe one day someone is in the mood to revisit parts of their life for closure or just some joy in that day. And maybe, you know, they don't want to talk to anybody, and I'm there to really help the family kind of navigate those harder moments when people are just kind of emotionally closed off.
A bookend of our life. This is like going to be such a wonderful thing to be able to provide for our families and the patients. I really hope everybody recognizes that this is such a powerful entity of a person's life. And such a powerful, positive thing for a hospice program.
Yeah, and I think it's the perfect time to really bring a death doula into the hospice space, because 2020 and even, you know, today in 2021, it's been a historical time, obviously, with, you know, COVID. Every single person, myself included, has had to face the idea of their own mortality. No one's been spared of that. And so I think like now's a, you know, time in our society where we've been super resistant to the idea of death and having, you know, those moments of grief. And we've all had to have them in some way, shape, or form this past year and a half. So now is really like the perfect time to, you know, take control of that narrative and really capitalize on it and really help people with like that preparation from the very least, you know. As part of my experience as a volunteer, like I really look forward to learning what those signs and symptoms are that the health professionals are really attuned to. And so when they're out of that space and I do have the ability to be there in kind of that gap time, I can be more so somebody who echoes that expertise and can provide just that knowledge that kind of helps ease the tension.
Allie's going to start out again as a patient companion and as a vigil, getting to know all of us on the staff. Well, Allie, I would really like to thank you for being my guinea pig on the Volunteer Corner. Again, this is our brand new volunteer role that will be rolling out, the Death Doula. We welcome you to our team.